I'm somewhere shaken back in I'm still yeah, because I'm happy to when I'm done. Right. Thank you, Denise, for doing this. I'm really sorry I didn't have my phone.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2018 Intercampus Clash. Thank you, everyone, for coming out, and I know it's the end of semester grind, I like to call it. It's a very tough time this semester, but thank you for coming out. It will be I promise it will be a very enjoyable experience and presentations we got. We have 5 awesome speakers speaking tonight. They are our semifinalists. Everyone, give them a round of applause. All right, so before we get started, I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Denise Sechrest, Dean of Kent State University here at Stark.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our second annual Intercampus Clash. I am indeed Denise Sechrest, and I'm so proud to be the Dean at Kent State University at Stark, and we're very happy to welcome all of you here. And we're particularly honored, I think, to host this persuasive speech competition because we have all of these institutions of higher learning. Now, we have to figure out how to make the music go away, right? Because I'm going to start to sing any moment, and there are some of you out there who know that I can, actually. But we are very fortunate in Stark County to have several colleges and universities located within the borders of this county. And I'm very pleased to have 4 represented visiting with us. So welcome to our friends from Stark State College. We're Stark State. And Malone University. And Walsh University. And Coastal University of Mount Union. And so let us at Kent State University at Stark welcome them all. So it's clear that higher education is indeed a priority for us at this community, anchoring Stark County as an academic leader, and we encourage our students to find their own destinies here. And part of what we're so proud about is sitting in this beautiful building, LEED Gold certified. It's 41,000 square feet, and it's a product of the critical role that we play in educating our students' interests in the sciences. So, tonight, I invite you to sit back and enjoy this beautiful space as our area students showcase that all-important skill and art form, which is in fact communication. So prepare to be convinced, coaxed, and compelled as students take the stage with remarks that will wow. We know that communication is vital and ever-changing in our technologically driven world. And these students will convince you that they value much more than the text lingo of LOL and OMG. So we thank you for your attention as the students do more than just persuade, but convince you that the future of communication is in very good hands. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Dr. Paul Summer. I'm assistant professor here at Kent State Stark in the Department of Communication Studies. I'm your host this evening, along with my good friend here, Michael Pazza, who's our president of Com Club. So he's helping run the show here tonight. So I wanted to start quickly and again, thank everyone for coming and mention some names here because this hasn't happened by itself. We've got quite a bit of people involved here, and I'm excited to see this event in its second year grow from a competition between Kent State University of Stark and Stark State College last year in the spring to this year now. We have 5 universities represented in the Intercampus Clash. And so I wanted to kind of thank some of the faculty members from each institution that has helped and put some time and effort into this and work with students and prepare them for this event. Starting off at Stark State College, Drs. Jim Belcher and Brad Palmer, both assistant professors at Stark State College, have been a big, major, really, contributors here. And in fact, I did want to mention just kind of some background about the event. I did mention this is the second year, and it really came about when Jim and Brad approached us and said, hey, we do a speech competition in the fall, and it's an informative speech competition. We're thinking about doing something in the spring and making a persuasive speech competition. Is that something you'd be open to? And of course, we jumped at the chance, and we made it happen last year. They hosted the first Intercampus Clash last year on their campus, and they took home the trophy, as they say, the first year, so we're still a little jealous about that. But we're excited to host this year, and we hope to continue on the tradition and have another institution host in the future. And so I really want to thank them for their contributions and really getting this off the ground and helping, of course, with this year's event as well. Dr. Jason Moyer, Chair in Department of Communication Arts from Malone University. Really excited to have him here and involved. Meredith Blick, Instructor of Communication from University of Mount Union. Of course, Dr. Aaron Hollenbaugh, our Associate Professor here at Kent State Stark, who works with me and has been a big help in putting on this event. And lastly, from Walsh University, Associate Professor Lee Horsberger. And so we all got a chance to get together at the beginning of the semester and kind of plan out some of these details and get things started. I'm really excited to see everybody here today and to listen to these fantastic speakers. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Michael, and we're going to get started with our speeches here in just a second.
All right, now it's time to introduce our prestigious judges. Dr. Amber Ferris, Associate Professor of Communication at the University of Akron Wayne College. Is that Amber? Dr. Jody Hupp, Assistant Professor of Speech Communication, Cuyahoga Community College. Thank you, Jody. And finally, Dr. Dudley Turner, Professor of Communication at the University of Akron. Thank you. All right, you guys ready to meet the speakers? All right. So our 5 speakers today will be Taylor Lee, Laura O'Mara, Jason Bowman, Morgan Lemons, and Caitlin George. All right, so Taylor, you're up first. Let's get going.
So Michael's going to get our technology set up here as Taylor comes up and gets prepared and ready to go. We're going to have about 8 minutes or so for each presenter, and we'll transition between each speakers and get their technology set up. So please hang with us here as we get each presenter ready to get started. We're going to start with Taylor.
Although many breathtaking works have been done and graffiti has been practiced for centuries, many institutions still deny the legitimacy of graffiti as artwork. Today I'd like to speak to you about why graffiti should be defined as art, and I'd like you to adopt a new perspective of art to include graffiti in it. What I've done is some research in the last couple months about both graffiti and art. I've also met with some local artists to give me a better understanding of graffiti. So specifically today, I'd like to try to define art for you. I'd like to look at how graffiti fits the criteria to be considered art, and I'd like to give you some examples to help us reimagine how graffiti should be defined. First, I'd like to define art, which is complicated within itself. You could look at things like proficiency or natural talent, but I want to look at some more basic traits of art, being aesthetic and intent. According to Ed John 2016 in the Sanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, a non-controversial trait of all art is that it is endowed by its maker with aesthetic interests or surpassing everyday objects. Aesthetics pretty much are just appreciation for nature, beauty, or artistic taste. According to Ford Krull 2013 in the Brooklyn Rail, which is a nonprofit arts and culture organization, there's a popular trend when asking people the question, what is art? So when people are asked this question, usually they'll answer if it is moving or involving on some level and had artist intention that the piece that they produce should be considered art. He also begs the claim that the best art defies the rules. You might remember that the works of Andy Warhol used to be considered controversial, but now it's hard to find a high school art class that doesn't teach this kind of mixed media style. So now that we've defined art, let's look at how graffiti fits the criteria to be considered art. There are many examples of how graffiti fits this criteria, but let's focus on the traits that we talked about before, being aesthetics and intent. According to Bree Hawking 2017 in the Royal Anthropological Institute, graffiti is a top-down analysis of culture. Also, graffiti calls to uncomfortable realities about history and society. See, graffiti is often mischaracterized as only gang-related, but there are many different kinds of graffiti. Now, graffiti is used by the people to promote political change and also just to serve as public aesthetics. This is related to the intent trait that we spoke art to have before. According to Fiona McDonald, 2013, graffiti is an image that is carved, stenciled, painted, or projected, and she even begs the claim that the first graffiti is cave paintings. This is an example of the specific intent trait that we spoke art to have. I wanted to include the works done by Banksy, who is a very popular graffiti artist. During the recent refugee crisis, he graffitied an image of Steve Jobs as an immigrant to remind people that he was himself born of Syrian immigrants. This comes from an article called Graffiti in Politics, 2016, by Bukraka D. This is a testament that graffiti has both intent and a mobilizing message. Another example I'd like to use is done by the local artist, Think. Now, they have works in Canton, Akron, and Cleveland, and when I asked them about the intent of their work, they said it was mostly just to add to the ordinary sights of the city, and of course to make people think. This is a good example of added aesthetic value. According to Ornament and Order 2013 by Raphael Schracker, he describes graffiti as independently produced aesthetics for the public sphere. Now that we looked at how graffiti fits the criteria, we'll look at some examples to help us reimagine how graffiti should be defined. As we know, culture is ever-changing, but there still is much pushback from many institutions, even regarding the legitimacy of studying graffiti. Consider the works done by Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel. When looking at this work, no one would ever question whether or not it's artwork. But what if Michelangelo hadn't been commissioned by Pope Julius II? Would that change your perception of the work? The work done by Ferry Ruda are arguably as aesthetically pleasing. This is a type of art called street art. This is a subculture of graffiti done with permission, according to McAuliffe C. 2012 in the Journal of Urban Affairs. So although graffiti is done worldwide in many public spheres and even done with permission, legitimacy of graffiti and street art is still questioned by many institutions, so funding into studying this topic is absent. But studying graffiti gives us insight into society and culture. According to Ross J. and others in the Social Science Journal in 2017. So if graffiti gives us an important insight into our culture, then changing our perspective of art to include graffiti will open the doors to better understanding society and culture. In conclusion, graffiti is an art for the people. When speaking to a local artist, they told me that the criminal charge that goes along with graffiti, destruction of property, is a paradox. They said, if anything, the charge should be construction of property because of its added creative value. I would like to add a caveat. I'm not promoting decriminalization of graffiti. I'm asking you to consider its merit. So what we've looked at specifically today is the definition of art. We looked at how graffiti fits the criteria to be defined as art. And we looked at some examples to help us reimagine how graffiti should be defined. I hope I have persuaded you to change your perspective of art to include graffiti in it. I'm not asking you to become graffiti artists. I'm not asking you to become artists. I'm just asking you to change your perspective. That way maybe as you're passing through your cities, in your daily life, and you see graffiti, you might stop and ask yourself, what was the artist's intention? Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. Well done. Up next, we have Maura O'Mara.
Today, I am going to introduce you a product that, number one, eliminates unnecessary waste. Number two, will save you money. And number three, provide you with a much better experience. Now, I have fallen in love with this product and it has changed my life. This product has helped me deal with the struggle that I face on a monthly basis. And every single woman in this room deals with the struggle. This is the struggle of the menstrual cycle. Now, before I get too in-depth into my argument, I'd like to ask you a question. How many of you in this room use a reusable water bottle on a daily basis? I know I do. And if I ask you, why do you use this bottle? What merit does it have? You would probably give me an answer that fits in one of these three categories. First, help save the environment. Using plastic water bottles end up in our landfills. And it's plastic is unnecessary waste that takes years to decompose. It's also a lot easier and more convenient. It allows you to refill that bottle as much as you would like throughout the day. And lastly, it saves you money. Buying plastic water bottles is an unnecessary cost, especially when we live in Ohio with such great drinking water. Now, the menstrual cycle, my goal today is twofold. First, to eliminate the stigma of a woman's period. And secondly, to introduce the audience to a product that will help both men and women alike. This product is a reusable menstrual cup called the Diva Cup. Now, for years throughout history, the period has been seen as a stigma, as a woman's secret issue. In an article titled Breaking the Menstrual Taboo, written in 2016, Professor Jane Usher of Women's Health Psychology at Western Sydney University is quoted as saying, "It's a sign of misogyny. It's the sign of positioning something that is essentially feminine as other, dirty, or disgusting." My aim today is to open up the conversation between both men and women to be able to discuss the menstrual cycle in a safe place where women will feel empowered that this natural cycle is a part of their life. Now I have a question for you men out there. How often has your girlfriend, mother, sister, other woman friend asked you, "Hey, can you run to the drugstore really quick? I need a tampon or a pad." And so you reluctantly agree, walk over to the drugstore, and you're faced with a wall that looks something like this. And I'm sure some questions come to mind. Well, does she want tampons? Does she want pads? Wings? No wings? What size does she want? Scented? Unscented? The list goes on and on. This confusing mess of questions can be eliminated by the understanding of two words: Diva Cup. Now let's examine some of the disadvantages and the drawbacks to using traditional methods like tampons or pads. A box of tampons at the local Walmart, access in 2018, cost about $7. Now if you do the math, throughout a year, a woman will spend, including tax, upwards of $100 on essential menstrual products. The Diva Cup, on the other hand, costs only $30. This is upwards of $70 of savings. This money you can put towards some other financial goal or other product that you'd like to purchase. Now this $7 box of tampons also produces much waste to the environment. Women's Health Environmental Network in 2017 reports that tampons, pads, and panty liners generate more than 200,000 tons of waste per year. And each of these three options actually contain plastic. Pads itself are 90% plastic. And this is unnecessary waste to our landfills. This plastic can also end up in our oceans and rivers, destroying our environment. All of this waste can be eliminated if women switch to a reusable cup, like the Diva Cup. Now, the Diva Cup does help the world in general, but the cup will also help every woman individually. According to the consumer research done on the Diva Cup website, 60% of women experience some type of leakage each month. Now, I definitely used to be one of those people. However, with my switch to the Diva Cup, things have changed. Tampons, on average, can last about 4 to 6 hours tops. However, the Diva Cup can last 10 to 12 hours. This large increase of time allows a woman to virtually forget she's even on her period. In the morning, she inserts the cup, goes about her day. And in the evening, takes it out, and virtually all day, she doesn't even think about what she has to do with her period. Lastly, tampons may actually harm your health. According to the Cleveland Clinic Health Essentials, accessed in April 2018, tampons absorb all of your vaginal fluid, including the blood, which can disturb the delicate pH and bacterial balance in the vagina. The collection method of a Diva Cup collects rather than absorbs these fluids, which can prevent toxic shock syndrome, a bacterial infection that's often associated with tampon use. Now, yes, I understand that only 1 in every 100,000 women experience this bacterial infection. However, with the Diva Cup, this infection can be 100% eliminated. There is zero risk involved when using this Diva Cup. Another study conducted by the Association of Reproductive Health, titled Menstruation and Menstrual Suppression Survey, states that almost half, that's 49% of women, want to learn more about their cycle. And the Diva Cup allows this empowerment and this learning of your menstrual cycle. In an article titled 6 Things the Color of Your Period Blood Says About Your Health by Alana Nunez, written in November 2017, who also cites multiple OBGYNs. She describes that along with indicating whether or not you are pregnant, your period can help indicate your hormone levels. And your hormone levels affect not only your reproductive system, but also your brain. For example, when looking at your blood, if your blood is a light pinkish color, then you likely have low estrogen levels, and this could lead to osteoporosis if untreated. Using a collection method like the Diva Cup allows a woman to look into the blood, note its color, consistency, and smell, and determine whether or not she should go consult her doctor about some possible problem. Now, in conclusion, if you use a reusable water bottle, then you should also be using the Diva Cup. The same reasons you use the bottle are the same reasons you should use the Diva Cup. Number one, it eliminates unnecessary waste to our landfills. The Diva Cup can be used for up to 1.5 years. Number two, it saves you money. It only costs $3. And number three, it provides you with a better experience, both men and women alike. Thank you.